So here we've got a tunnel full of grafted magnolias which last August arrived here from New Zealand, and they're just coming into leaf and they're looking really quite nice considering they've been 12,500 miles round the world. But immediately we've got a problem, and the problem is that if you look closely here you can see where the graft was, and you can see that we've got shoots coming out from beside the graft, and in this case below the graft. Now if we leave those shoots there, what will happen is they will divert all the energy from the rootstock into this new shoot rather than going up the stem onto the grafted plant. And in time this root shoot, this side shoot here coming out from below the graft, will take over and it will eventually kill the graft itself. That'll take a few years, but it will happen, and it'll mess up your plant and it'll destroy it, and it was an expensive plant to start with. So what you need to do is to very carefully, with a pair of secateurs, just prune off tight to the stem these two little side shoots. And now you can see, actually you can see there's a possibility another one coming there which we'll have to look out for later in the year. But there you can see that the energy is now going to go right up the stem of this grafted plant, and we won't have any trouble losing energy into the side shoots. Sometimes the situation can be even worse, where here we've got shoots emerging from the roots of the rootstock where they're a bit close to the top of the soil, so they're not actually coming from where the graft has taken place, they're actually coming from the roots themselves that are attached to the rootstock. And if we dig down a bit, we can see that these new shoots have come a long way down, starting to find the roots. And again, we need to get rid of those, because if we allow them to grow, they will shoot up and eventually they'll take all the energy away from our grafted plant. So again, we need to trim them off as far below ground as we possibly can and get rid of the problem. And when I start looking round at these hundreds of magnolias here, I see another one with a nasty side shoot coming from below the graft. Actually, I can probably just knock that off with my fingers. I hardly even need the secateurs. So this is a job for you all at this time of the year, to check your magnolias, check that there are no shoots coming from below the graft. And the next little bit of this video shows you what happens when a side shoot takes over from the main grafted plant, and what a frightful mess it makes. So a number of people come to us and talk to us about what to do when your magnolia produces a shoot from below the graft, and the trouble that this can cause your plant. Now if we look closely here, we can see precisely what has happened. This shoot here was the original graft onto the rootstock. At some point 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't notice that there was a side shoot coming from the rootstock below the level of the graft, and we didn't cut it off when we should have. The result is that the new shoot is much more vigorous, as you'd expect, because it's come from the rootstock, and the new shoot is taking all the energy away from the plant. Meanwhile, the original grafted plant is not dead yet, but it will be, because the energy is being taken away from it. And you can see how slowly the grafted portion is growing in comparison to the rootstock itself. Give it another couple of years and you'll find that the graft will be smothered out and this piece will die, and we'll end up with the rootstock. I can't tell you offhand what particular rootstock this is, but I suspect it'll be Magnolia sargentiana robusta, because that's the magnolia that seeds most with us. Now the question is, am I going to be really brave and cut off the whole of this side shoot? And I think that's debatable. We should have done it 4 or 5 years ago when it was just a tiny shoot. I think at the moment, if we cut off the rootstock there, I doubt whether we will be completely successful. But anyway, I'm going to try. I need actually a small saw to complete the job and to cut it off neatly there. These secateurs are not quite man enough for the job, but what we hope with a little bit more work is that the energy will now flow up the stem of this nice grafted plant. It's an easy mistake to make. We'll show you what a small shoot looks like in another piece of this video, and how you can generally break it off with your hand rather than allowing it to develop into a disaster as we've actually got here.